Hey everybody, it's Marcia Karadinsa of The Frolicking Fairy. I wanted to film ahead my coloring for this very fair princess from the Kindred Stamps and Wishing Stamp set. I will be using this on my live Friday evening, which is tomorrow. So I wanted to try to get this uploaded and posted before that because I don't know what kind of time restrictions I'm going to have ahead of tomorrow. There have been a lot of changes with COVID, with schools and everything else, and I just might be dead dog tired. So I'm going to try to do this in preparation ahead, and in case others of you are in similar situations, as I'm sure you are. So let's get started. I went ahead and scribbled some of the colors I'll be using here. As you know, I use the Spectrum Noir TriBlend markers. I have the older nibs. I don't have the newer ones. I think the newer ones have a brush nib that's similar to the Copic brush markers. So I'm starting with the Fair Skin Blend with the darker shade. I'm going to try my best to do this without blocking the way, or obviously I don't color like this when I'm not filming. I'm not as worried about getting any marker there in her hair. Her hair is black, so we won't even see that. I'm gonna add just a bit of dark right here. Again, you can use your Copic markers in similar colors. I'm just using a darker skin tone. I'm gonna switch to the mid-tone. Going to be pulling some of that out, go over these same lines around the perimeter of her face. I don't really want to add too much darker tones to her skin, just because she does have fairer skin, like myself. Now we're going to that lighter tone. I hope you can see well enough. I was going to try to do this during the daytime on my lunch break, but that just did not happen today. So as you see, I try to swoopy through the darker tones and pull out. I really don't want to darken the center of her face too much. I really want to make sure her nose, especially the tip of her little nose, remains lighter. And these spots here are so little. Okay, I'm just going to go in with that darker tone one more time and deepen the shadows here. You could always use those violet tones. I think, who is it that does that? Sandy Allnock. Or even a deeper, if you've got the tan skin blend. I just didn't want to pull too many colors in for this, because I'm particular. I'm just going to pull that out. But I did some darker around the mouth on another character, and I liked the way that looked, so I'm trying that again. All right, so we finished her skin, and I always do the skin first, especially in situations where they've got darker hair, because the last thing I want to do is accidentally pull any of that darker hair and smudgy it or blur it into my skin, especially on a character with a fairer skin complexion. All right, so let's see. Let's move on to her dress. I'm going to start with the skirt of her dress and use the light yellow blend. I don't like using the darker tone on this. It's got a more of a green kind of look. So I'm going to go over the entirety of the skirt with the light yellow. I'm going to color the whole thing of it. I'm more just trying to be careful I don't get it outside the lines. Okay, so now that we've got that all covered, I'm going to just set the marker off to the side here, uncapped, so I don't have to keep struggling with it. And then I'm going to use the gold brown blend. I'm actually going to start with that mid-tone first and try to work in the shadows. I find browns work really, golden brown tones work beautifully for adding deeper shadow cast shadows for yellows. And in this case, you know, her skirt is going to be more of a bright sunny, but the golden yellows really work, and I definitely did not want, I switched to the lighter tone. I definitely didn't want a green. So this is one way I've worked with what I've got with the TriBlends. I do have some of the singular markers, but again, in an effort to stick with the same markers, I'm not even gonna blend that out more. I think that looks fine. We're using the same lighter tone from the gold brown blend. I'm gonna go ahead and color her little shoes because her shoes are kind of a neutral color. I'm gonna use that mid-tone and just barely add a little bit here. See, just touch and swipe, if you will, and the same here. Okay, and that completes that. To do the little bow, I'm going to use brown gray blend and just the lightest tone of that. Again, it's very tiny. You can barely even see that. Now we're gonna work on the bodice of her gown, which is a richer blue. So for that, I am going to start, I'm gonna use the True Blue blend for the bodice and the sleeve puffs. But for the bodice, I'm going to use the darker tone because it's darker. And it's such a small little area. Sometimes I know we fussy with trying to shade the smallest of spots. Okay, so I'm gonna start there, put a little dot here, and then go in with a mid-tone and kind of blend it, if you will. I mean, it's gonna be hard. It's such a small spot. Where's my dark? There's the dark. I'm just gonna go in with the dark once more. Again, if you wanted to pull out deeper tones and shades, by all means do. I do this because I know there are others like me that use the TriBlends. I know they're a bit more affordable and sometimes easier to find. So I enjoy being able to give people a different option. So I'm gonna use that mid-tone and just go around the base, if you will, a little bit. You see I colored in some of those spaces. We'll just kind of work around that. Some of this, just keep in mind, I mean, they're small little images. Just do the best that you can. This doesn't have a fine nib, and that can be a butt pain sometimes. Okay, so we've added that lighter blue to her sleeve puffies. You see I've got a little bleeding here. I'm not worried about that. I'll use my colorless blender to try to clean it up. And if that doesn't work, my favorite trick is to use a white gel pen to clean up the outside edges. Okay, so now to work on the little darts here in her sleeve and the bow in her hair, we're going to use the dark red blend. I am going to go straight to the light tone. These are too small. I don't feel like it's worth accidentally bleeding color for such a wee little spot. See, I went outside just a bit. It's hard coloring like this. I'm probably going to use a fine liner pen for her lips. I'm afraid that I'll make too much of a mess with this nib. So I didn't bring any out here with me, so just know that just use a red gel pen would work really well actually, or any kind of finer nib pen for her lips. So let's just work on the bow. I'm going to go to the darker blend on this just a little bit. Just kind of pull up one a little farther. Gonna add a little bit there, a little bit there, and then coming up here. Okay, go to that mid-tone. I don't want to use much there. Kind of going over some of those same lines. As you see, I pull it out just a wee bit more in these areas. I love this little princess. She's one of my favorites. Something very sweet about her. I'm gonna start in the open areas. I don't want to lose some of that contrast with the darker tones. You get a very nice blend in bigger areas when you go over the darker area. I'm sorry if I was off camera, and then pulling it out. But in these smaller areas, I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose the contrast between the darker and the lighter. I don't want to blend it all the way out. Okay, let go in just that darker, just a bit more over here. Sorry. Okay, now we're gonna work on her hair, and this part I wasn't sure how I wanted to do that, especially while recording. Especially black hair. It's always a little more exciting, isn't it? Let my white gel pen. So there's different schools of thought. You can either use grays to add your highlight. You can use lighter blues or lighter purples. I'm just gonna stick to grays to make it not as complicated. I'm just rearranging myself on the seat. And I am going to use black, which you have to be careful with. I can't turn it sideways, but I am gonna use the black marker to kind of dig into the deeper shadow spots. But I am careful with this because it does blend and shade out quite a bit more than some of the other ones. So I don't want to go overkill on this one. And this one might even be a little bit dry, which I find helpful. I actually like when some of these darker ones, because I can get a better feather, if that makes sense. Can you see that? I can get a better color feather, especially in the hair. So I know it sounds contradictory to say I prefer a drier marker for the shadows, but you can see it. It's gonna make it look like I really know what I'm doing in the hair department. Okay, so I'm just working in these deeper shadow areas and seeing it's giving me that nice gradation of color just because the marker is drier. So I'm gonna flip it up that way. Let's see, we'll come in here and we'll work some, see it's almost getting too dry. We're gonna come in here and do the same thing, kind of come up this way. I hope you can see what I'm doing. I'm sorry about that. And trust me, it wouldn't be any better if I did it during a live either. Okay, let's see. Work in here. I'm gonna try to swing some out this way. Same here. My marker's really dry. I need either a re-inker or I know I have another one somewhere. But again, I like that it doesn't overkill it for me. Because I really don't want it to be too heavy. Okay, so let's just see if we can bring in some lines this way. I got lines that way. Marker's getting dry here, and then it's almost too dry. Yeah, too dry to go this way, but you get the gist. But you see the benefit, and see I drew right over that red. I'll go over with my marker now before it settles in too much. And as a note, the paper I use to color on is the cheapy paper that I get at Walmart. It's the Pen and Gear brand, which is the Walmart brand. It costs about between $5 and $6 a ream for about 100 sheets. I love it. It's a great weight. I think it colors beautifully, and it's really cheap. Okay, so now we're going to switch to the ice gray shades. I'm going to start with that darker blend or tone, and just come back into those same areas and start bringing them out. You see the difference between a juicy marker and a not juicy marker, huh? I'm just gonna go into those same shadow areas. Oh boy. See, look at that crazy line I did. Let's see. Okay, I'm just gonna shift to the mid-tone and do the same thing. I just want to make sure I leave enough for a bit of lightness where it might be, where the light might strike her hair. I want to get around that bow pretty decently. Come right here close to her hairline. And then around her face. It's hard for me to see, I'm sorry. This, my phone is really is in my way a bit. Okay, ugh, I hate when this happens. Okay, so I want to use the lighter tone. I actually think I'm gonna shift to the ice gray blend. These are the 3 lighter shades. So I'm gonna do to the darker one here. It might pop off too, but it won't be quite as dark, and I think I won't lose as much when I start doing this, which is what I'm hoping for. So if you want to be more of a purist, I think in cases like this, I know we all like to shade and play with some of that, but if you look at old, vintage art, cartoons, the color was more flat, especially with darker here, like this one. They merely added the shadow or the highlight line to, say, like the top of her curl here or something like that. So don't feel like you have to do all of this. I'm doing this because I know that's what you guys seem to want to see sometimes. So anyways, that's her there. I wish I had a pen. I'm gonna regret doing this. Let's see if I can do this and not say a bad word. See if I can tap it on, because I can't see. Okay, so far so good. Now I got the tiniest area left to do. I just hate that I don't want to leave the tap. I don't want to leave it completely unfinished. A colored pencil would work here too if you just had a very sharpened pencil. You know what? That might be what you get. I'm afraid I'm going to color her teeth. Of course, people have done that throughout history too, isn't that the truth? Women accidentally get the lipstick on the teeth. Okay, so now we're just going to add the highlight, dot to her eyes. I really feel like that kind of gives another fun layer, that twinkle in the eyes. And that'll do it. We might add a little bit here. I'm not one for bold white highlights or lines, so if you see lighter lines, that's usually what I'm doing. I tap it and then kind of wipe it off a little bit. And if I'm not happy with it, I color over it. I'm gonna add a little highlight to her lippy if I can. There we go. It might be too small to even mess with. Yeah, so you can't even, I feel like that just kind of jacked it up a little bit. Lessons learned. Okay, guys. hope you enjoyed this quickie video. Again, I'm gonna post this ahead of my live. See, I shouldn't have messed with the lips. I shouldn't have tried to add the highlight line. I should have left well enough alone. All right. So anyways, thanks for joining me. So we've got this sweet fair princess colored, and be sure to join in my live in the Facebook fan club, the Kindred Stamps Facebook fan club, tomorrow, Friday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern or 6 p.m. Pacific. And I believe we're going to create little ATCs because I'm going to have another ATC swap. I'll probably post that in the next couple of months. We'll see how things play out. We had some interesting mail delays and things getting lost this last swap in the fall just because of the way it is. So I'd like to try to avoid that if at all possible. So anyways, I hope you guys have a lovely evening, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.